These are Sony's newest flagship noise-canceling headphones, the WH-1000XM6. They're the follow-up to the already top-tier XM5s, but they come in at a price point of $450. So the big question is, are they worth it? The XM6 doesn't reinvent the wheel, but Sony has made some smart refinements. You've still got that sleek, minimalist matte finish available in black or in silver. The ear cups have been reshaped ever so slightly for better passive isolation, and the depth of the padding seems a tad deeper and surrounds my ears really, really well. In fact, they're not even turned on and I can barely hear anything. As for the headband, it's apparently been rebalanced to reduce pressure on the crown, and I've got to say, it does feel good. In fact, these headphones are super lightweight, and I've worn them for hours at a time, longer than any other set of headphones that I own, and I never feel like they're too hot or too uncomfortable or definitely not too heavy. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that these might be the most comfortable pair of headphones that I've ever worn. Seriously, during editing sessions that went on for hours or even flights, they stayed lightweight and breathable the entire time. I never felt like I had any neck pain or anything like that. They were incredibly comfortable and a pleasure to wear. Now, with that being said, one of the reasons that they're so light is because they are made primarily of plastic. And when you compare these directly to something like the Apple AirPods Max, they do feel a bit cheaper. The plastic is light, which of course is a good thing, but still, compared to metal, it doesn't feel as solid. Of course, one of my biggest complaints with the AirPods Max is the fact that they do feel heavy over time, so I guess there is a trade-off there. And while, yes, it is plastic, it doesn't feel like cheap plastic. I will say, my own personal preference, I do somewhat prefer Apple's sort of mesh headband to this. It just feels, I don't know, it's just different. It's not like something I've ever felt before. This feels more like a standard headband, and while it doesn't feel bad at all, in fact, it feels great, there's just something about that one that feels better. Maybe it's airier because it is just mesh, I don't know, but I just like that one a bit better. All that being said, while yes, I do think that the AirPod Maxes do feel more expensive, and to be fair, they are technically $100 more expensive, which is an insane price, $550? Come on. These still feel really, really great and very premium in the hand. The XM6s have also changed up some of the buttons. The power button is now wider and deeper in this nice circular shape, and I really love the way that it feels, especially when you're searching for it. On the back of your head, you can tell what the power button is and also what the noise cancellation button is. It's not difficult to figure out which one is which anymore, which I really, really like. Another huge improvement, which for some reason was not on the XM5s, but was on previous Sony headphones, is they finally brought back the swiveling ear cups, which means you can actually lay them flat, and also, now, you can fold them like this. Seems pretty basic, but was something that you couldn't do on the XM5s. To be fair though, you also can't do that on the AirPod Maxes. You can't fold them, so that's already just a huge plus over the AirPod Maxes. Now, because they fold like this, you can also fit them in a smaller case versus the case you got with the XM5s, which was pretty large, and obviously it's way better than the bra case that you get with the AirPods Max. The case is significantly smaller than the XM5s, and it's also a hard shell, which is nice. One thing that I love about this case, in fact, I think it's probably one of the best case innovations of the last couple years, is the magnetic clasp that you've got right here. There are no zippers on this case whatsoever. Instead, it's purely secured by this magnetic clasp, which is so much faster to open and close, especially when you're trying to grab this out of your bag at the airport or something like that, and also closing it back up and dropping it back into your bag. It makes things so much more seamless, and it's just as secure. Inside, obviously, you've got the headphones folded up. You've also got a USB-C cable and an aux cable, which is really great. I think it's 4 feet long, which is not bad. And it's just like a really great, compact, hardshell case. It does everything right. I love it. Plus, it's included. Now, I realize most headphones do come with included cases, but not all tech comes with included cases, so it's really nice when you get a very, very well-designed included case. But okay, now let's talk features, because this is where the SM6 makes its case as one of the best in the game. The headline feature, the improved noise cancellation, thanks to the upgraded Sony QN3 chip and 12 total microphones versus last year's 8. Sony is already known for industry-leading ANC, but the XM6 pushes that even further. When it comes to real-world use, that means subway noise, or AC hums, background chatter, or even airplane engines, all gone. It's crazy. Okay, it's not total silence, but it is literally the closest that you're gonna get in this price range. And this is like a high-end price range. $450 is not cheap. It's a legitimately amazing system. It's noticeably better than the previous generation, and in my opinion, it's definitely better than the AirPods Max. The XM6s also come with adaptive sound control, which uses location and movement data to automatically adjust settings based on your routine. Like, for example, switching to ambient mode when you're walking, or full ANC when you're sitting. It's pretty amazing. Of course, as you probably expected, there's speak to chat, which I love. Start talking and your music instantly pauses so you can have a conversation. It's a weirdly convenient feature, one that I thought that I would never use, but I actually use it all the time at my house because that's where I do most of my work, is at my house. So if I'm talking to my wife or my daughter or something like that, it just pauses automatically, go right into the conversation, then get back to editing or music or whatever it is. Of course, touch controls are not going anywhere, and they're still very responsive. You swipe up to raise the volume, down to lower it, and tap to pause. All the usual gestures work well, and they're customizable in the Sound Connect app. I do have to be honest though, in general, I'm still not the biggest fan of touch controls on headphones. I find myself accidentally pausing music or fast forwarding when I'm just adjusting the headphones on my head. It's really not a huge deal and it doesn't happen that much, but I am still definitely more of a fan of physical knobs. Shout out to YouTuber Knobfeel. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Ooh.
Getting back to the Sound Connect app though, you can fine tune the EQ, you can turn on wind and noise reduction, you can switch audio modes, you can do a lot of really cool stuff within that app, some of which is nice and some of which is almost unnecessary, but it is nice to have. Sony really does a great job of giving you full control here. Not every brand does that. Definitely not every brand. But now let's get into actual sound quality, and spoiler alert, it's awesome. I mean, what did you expect? It's like the latest generation of the Sony XM headphones. They're all amazing. In my opinion, the XM6 offers a slightly more neutral tuning than the XM5, but it still has plenty of bass when you want it. The mids are pretty clear, the vocals are present, and the treble is crisp without being too harsh. And again, you can mess with the EQ to let you dial in the sound the way that you like it, which I love. But hey, even right out of the box, they sound incredible. You can listen to everything from Travis Scott to Queen to Elton John to podcasts like my podcast, the Shoes Off Podcast. Check it out through the links in the top of the description below. These sounded consistently clean, punchy, and immersive. It felt like I was actually in that podcast room with myself. I was, but you know, it also just sounded good. But of course, sound, although it's a majority of, it's only technically part of the equation. So let's talk about call quality. In both quiet rooms and outdoor settings, voices come through all right. It's not the best sounding microphone in the world, even though they added 4 more. It's crazy how many more they added, and it still sounds pretty similar to last year. But these aren't really for calls. Although, yes, I've taken many Zoom calls on these, I've taken phone calls on these, and they work. And I mean, they're pretty similar to the AirPods Max too, to be fair. I don't really like taking calls on big headphones like this because the sound quality, at least for the other person, is not the best. That being said, it's very doable. It works fine. It just sounds like a set of headphones. Another plus about the XM6s, which if you haven't had Sony's before, you might not have tried, although it is sort of an industry standard, so you probably have tried it. You can connect multiple devices to your headphones at the same time. Of course, it doesn't mean you can listen to 2 devices at once. It means you can switch between devices seamlessly whenever you're using them. And what's nice about these is that it doesn't have to be an Apple device and an Apple device, although that's what I have mine paired up to most of the time. It could be an Apple device and something else, which is a nice touch. All right, so let's talk battery life, because Sony is still killing it in that department. You're looking at around 30 hours of playback with active noise canceling on, and apparently 40 hours with active noise canceling turned off. Now that's what they said. As far as for my own personal use case, I've charged them up twice, mainly because I charged them up once when I first got them, and again, just to kind of top them off, but I never really went full all the way down to the bottom, which I guess I probably should have done, but I had no issues with these at all when it came to battery life. So obviously, you know, there's a chance of the battery degrading over years, but every pair of Sony XM headphones that I've had have been pretty decent with battery life, at least that I can remember. Another nice feature is that a 3-minute charge gets you 3 hours of playback, which is great, especially when you're going on a flight and you forgot to charge your headphones. So it really allows you to plug in at maybe a local coffee shop. Technically you can plug in most airplanes now, but if you can't, it's a really easy way to top off the headphones so you've got some battery life for your trip. All right, so we've covered what's great about the Sony XM6s, but what about the downsides? The biggest con, well, one of the biggest cons is that there's no water resistance. Like all the other Sony XM headphones, is not water resistant at all. So you don't want to drop these in a pool, not that you'd want to do that with other tech stuff. I wouldn't heavily sweat in these, although you can still work out in these if you want. I would probably stay away from the rain, to be honest, personally, but you know, I've seen people wear these in the rain. I mean, for $450, I wish that Sony had made these a bit more durable, especially in terms of water resistance. And yeah, $450 is steep in general. So for me, that's kind of a big omission. The other big con, and I think the biggest con for most people, is the price, $450. It's $50 more than the XM5s from last year. Those are actually now on sale, I think, for like $350, which is a pretty good price for honestly a pretty similar headphone. So keep that in mind. But $450 is steep. They will go on sale eventually, but we're probably talking 6 months to a year from now minimum. So if you want these and you want the top of the line specs, you're gonna have to pay the full $450. So with that being said, are the Sony WH-1000XM6 headphones worth it? Well, in my opinion, if you want top tier active noise cancellation, great sound, and premium comfort, and of course smart features that actually work, they're not cheap at all, but they do pretty much everything that you could ever really want them to do, except for get wet. To be fair though, I don't usually find myself in wet situations with over-ear headphones, so it might not be that big of a deal for some people. If you travel a lot, or you commute every day, or you work in noisy spaces, these are an incredible daily driver. Or if you just love good sound quality, these are by far the best noise canceling headphones I've ever tried, at least in terms of consumer headphones, and I love them. I think they're worth the money. That said, if you already have the XM5s or even the XM4s, you might not need to upgrade unless you're craving the latest tech. They're better, but are they $450 better? Probably not. If you're just looking for good sound quality and solid ANC on a budget, there are plenty of other options out there for you for under $300. Or even the AirPods Maxes, which you can find on sale for like $349, and the XM5s price for like $350. So there's a lot of good options out there for you if you don't want to spend over $400. But if you do, tough to not recommend these. These are going to replace my AirPod Maxes, so I'm pretty excited about that. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Are these worth $450 to you, or are you holding out for a deal? Let me know your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.